We all know sir, he's a very renowned pediatrician and yoga trainer. He is the recent president of Coimbatore IMA. He is the convener of the IMA TNSP Lifestyle Modification Committee and published many research papers on anemia and obesity. He has even written a book on breastfeeding and conducted more than 800 medical camps. He has received the Best President Award by National IMA, Active Pediatrician Award and multiple other awards. He has been the backbone of our committee right from the beginning, encouraging us, motivating us. Phone எடுத்தாலே பிரதீப் நல்லா பண்றீங்க அப்படினு தான் ஆரம்பிப்பாரு. So very good and honored to have you here sir. I request Doraikannan sir to introduce the first speaker. Again a renowned person, a celebrity in fact, Dr. J. Mariano, Anto, Bruno, Mascarenhas. I request Doraikannan sir to introduce him.
A great neurosurgery surgeon from Chennai. It's a special focus on endoscopy, low carb diet. He is practicing and he is teaching also. He books of science and psychology of paleo diet, and he is a master in the paleo diet teaching. State Nodal Officer of Health Management Information System of Government of Tamil Nadu 2007 and 8. Technical Associate, Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu, Transact under 2008-2016. Technical Team Leader and Nodal Officer, Tamil Nadu Accident Emergency Initiative 2017 and 2019. Gold Medal MBBS, Tirunelveli Medical College, where I studied. KK Bizarra Award for the Best Paper Allied Neurosciences All India level during MCH Neurosurgery. Written 11 medical books published by the JP Brothers, Paras and Column Books. Written 10 Tamil books. Founder of www.target.com, www.muscularolin.com and Doctors Sandlaw.com. Twitter account followers including Barack Obama and Ian Botham. Welcome you, sir.
Diet, a scientific approach. Why it matters in the current scenario. I request Dr. Bruno, sir, to start the session.
So, respected office bearers of IMA, dear seniors, colleagues, a very good morning to all of you. So, here we will be talking, my discussion is into 4 parts actually. First will be understanding the newer challenges. This is irrespective of the diet, so I would like you to pay some attention to this. Then about how diet causes disease, this you all know. Then how diet cures disease, this also most of you will be knowing, and then validating the solutions. So something which will be very unique in this presentation is the first and final part. So the first 2 parts is about the why it matters in the current scenario, and the scientific approach is the last 2 parts. So we will go into the point. So in 1967, 1972 to 77, ICMR conducted a study in Tamil Nadu about diabetes, and they found out that the prevalence was 2.1% in urban population and 1.5% in rural population. And even in those who are above 40, the prevalence was just 5% in urban and 2.8% in rural. That was in 1972. And then what happened is, till 1990s in Tamil Nadu, the seniors here will know, the predominant cause of mortality as well as morbidity will be either the diarrheal diseases, LRI, preterm birth complications, ischemic heart diseases, TB, neonatal encephalopathy and so on. And till 1990 in Tamil Nadu, infectious diseases were causing 5 out of 6 deaths. So this is an official figure about the This is official figure. If you see in 1990 Delhi, that the top killer was morbidity cause was diarrheal diseases, followed by LRI, followed by preterm complications. Fifth position was TB, sixth position neonatal encephalopathy, ninth was measles, 11th was iron deficiency anemia, 13th was other neonatal diseases. And within 26 years, within just 3 decades, there is a very high transformation that you see. Ischemic heart disease is in the number 1. Diabetes, which was number 20, 20th cause of morbidity and mortality just 3 decades ago, is the second highest cause of morbidity and mortality today. Self-harm has come, COPD has come, sense organ deficiency has come, then road injuries, chronic kidney injuries, and if you come, the first infectious cause here comes at number 12. So, this is a very, very rapid shift we have to understand, and as doctors, we have to address this. First, only if you understand what has happened in our society in the past 30 years, we will be able to even think about addressing it. If you see the acute diarrheal disorders, which was the first common cause of mortality and morbidity, was moved to 12th, LRA has moved to 17, and TB has moved to 15. There is also another corollary here. If you see all those diseases, the first most of the diseases in the 1990, the single doctor was able to handle in his clinic, whereas if you see in this side, we need a multiple complicated setup, and this change is also one of the reasons why practice has shifting away from single doctor clinics, but that is another story. We will now go to the next. So what are the death and disability? Here again, you can see a massive shift. So why this has happened is, this is a very common phenomenon as well as the uncommon. What is common is, as every society progresses through an improvement in social and economical conditions, you will see a demographic shift. So initially you will see more of communicable diseases and less of non-communicable diseases, and after some as diseases progress, the communicable disease will come down and non-communicable diseases will go up. Every pointer not oh, no problem. So every country goes through this transformation, every society goes through this transformation, and if you see in all our textbook journals, they happily place India at the middle. But the truth is, not all states in India are same. There are some states the transition is very fast, some states the transition is very slow. So what you need to remember is, this epidemiological transition happens no other go, it happens everywhere. It has already happened in USA, UK, Japan, Canada, and it will happen in Ethiopia in future. But what is the stage we are? That is important. And how fast are we moving? That is also important. So we will see where we are. So there was a survey done by health department some few years ago, and they screened 3.6 crore people. So you see, screening 3.64 people is not a simple thing, because there are not even 100 countries having a population of 3.6 crore people. So what we have done is, we have screened more people than population of 150 countries. And then we found out that diabetes incidence is more than 50% in Tamil Nadu above 30 years. So you see, it is not 5%, 10% increase. Again, more, if you are taking an age cutoff of 30 years, half the population in Tamil Nadu are diabetic or pre-diabetic, if you want me to be very technically accurate. So why it has happened is, you will be surprised at this chart. This is from Planning Commission. You see, in 1990, 51% of Tamil Nadu was poor. 1960, the data from 1960 is, Tamil Nadu's poverty was 51.7%, when Bihar was 49.7% poor. So we were a state where poverty was more than Bihar in 1960s, and today our poverty is only 15.5%, whereas Bihar is 34%. So, this much rapid influx of money into the society, while becoming rich has its advantages, we also need to understand that this much rapid social development comes at a cost for healthcare. Similarly, it is not just health. What I am trying to say is we are improved in every parameter. So, and for example, 1960s Tamil Nadu was equivalent to 1910s America. We were lagging by 5 to 6 decades America. Today, our health profile is almost same as American health profile. So, in other words, what American healthcare system had to endure in 90 years, our doctors are forced to endure in 20 years. And our problem is, we were lagging behind West by 6 decades, okay? But we grew at twice the speed of India. So why I need to stress this twice the speed of India is, many all India professional bodies, be it IMA or IAP or ASA, whoever be it, they are looking at India as a whole, and they are not able to understand the problems we doctors in Tamil Nadu face. Our problems are unique. And we have reached the West in few parameters, and we have even overtaken the West in many parameters like GER, house electrification, area under mobile connectivity. You will be surprised to know that our graduates enrollment ratio is more than that of USA, and our house electrification rate is more than that of USA. I am talking about Tamil Nadu. Not only that, area under mobile connectivity in Tamil Nadu is more than that of USA. That is, you are more likely to have a mobile signal in Tamil Nadu than in United States of America. And there are very few countries which are like us. One classical example is South Korea, where you see that there is a rapid fall of fertility, and Tamil Nadu, again, we have the lowest fertility rate in India now. So, the real problem what happened is, our infrastructure growth is only like rest of India, whereas our socio-economic growth is twice that of India. So, when the infrastructure growth is like rest of India, essentially it means our government hospitals will grow like rest of India, but our diseases are growing at twice the speed, and so who is going to bear the differences? Doctors is only facing it. So, what has happened in the past 30 years is, there is a rapid socio-economical shift which has comes with psychological stress. This psychological stress is across all ages. To be frank, in the past, psychological stress was associated, past is just 30 years, psychological stress was associated from ages 20 to 60. Today, we are dealing with psychological stress even at school level as well as at old age level. So, geriatric psychiatry and pediatric psychiatry, which were not that much prevalent, has been tremendously increased here. And again, there is a problem of increased mobile usage. The very important problem of increased mobile usage, which many people miss, is this screen light disturbs the melatonin cycle. So, human brain and human eye have been designed for millions of years. That is, the most of the design of our eye is same as that of animals. So, those days the only source of light is sunlight. Fire was even invented only 25,000 years ago. Before fire, the only source of light was sunlight. So, the melatonin cycle was only dependent on the light. And so, what happens at 11 o'clock when you take your screen and see the bright light, your brain, your limbic system cannot differentiate it between a day or sun. So, the melatonin cycle disrupts. So, there is a sleep disturbance. Our people watch Facebook or see a message at 11 o'clock, and then they wonder why they are not able to fall asleep. Then they fall asleep at 3 o'clock due to tiredness. Okay, instead of melatonin like inducing sleepiness, the fatigue induces sleep at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Then they wake up grudgingly, and the next morning they are not able to fully focus on the job. Because they are not able to fully focus on the job, the day's job is not completed and it gets extended. Then they get stressed because the day's job is not extended, and because of the stress, they just resort to the only simplest medium they can use to avoid stress, that is social media. The next day's sleeping cycle gets disrupted, and this leads to long-term problem. And this is one problem of mobile usage. The social media addiction and game is the second one. Why I have put this disturbance first is because it is not yet talked about, but it is more prevalent. And then getting wrong advices from YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram is another problem we are going to face, and the disease pattern has changed. The problems are unique, as I already told. We have the state with most rapid socio-economic state. Only comparable example all over the world is Singapore and South Korea. No other society has advanced so rapidly like Tamil Nadu, and no other state in India has changed. So doctors and other states and nations will not be able to even understand this. And all India professional bodies are also understanding it. And why I am stressing the last point is, dietitians will not understand this. So don't relegate the duty of giving the diet to the dietitians. They may be able to explain better than you, but they won't understand what diet is needed, because this what I am talking is beyond the scope of dietitian syllabus. So we have unique problems, and the most important point I am going to stress is, the solutions for our problems will not be available with Western systems or other states, because it is a new problem for us. So you cannot expect data, studies or trial for everything, because they haven't even faced that problem. It is like we are in 8th standard. We cannot ask a 3rd standard kids to teach us the problem we are facing. A 3rd standard student who has not come to 8th will not be able to even understand the problem, let alone give a solution. So when in Tamil Nadu healthcare, if we are facing a problem, please don't look at other systems. Our problems are unique, and many of our solutions are also advanced than West or other states. So don't even try to look at it. This point I am stressing from community medicine point of view. There will be a better surgical instrument available in UK or US. You adapt it. There will be a better investigation technique. You adapt it. There will be a better protocol. You adapt it. That is for individual patient orientation. We can get, they may be advanced. But from addressing a community challenge, we are very ahead, and our problems are even ahead. So let us not blindly wait for West to give a solution. So use basic knowledge and common sense to arrive at solutions, and we have to publish it. And here the last point is very critical. We have got a new problem and we have to find a new solution. So please be aware that the solution you are finding can withstand 3 trials: legal trial, media trial, social media trial. Your solution may be medically correct, but don't do it due to over enthusiasm if you cannot answer the question in social media or media or legal. So point is, you have to be ahead. Our problems are unique. You have to be ahead. You have to find our solutions. But at the same time, even though our solution you propose may be medically correct, in the today you need not answer only to medical people. You are going to answer to legal, you are going to answer to media, you have to answer to social media. So be very careful. Find the solution, but implement it only if you are able to withstand a medial trial, social media trial as well as legal trial. So the democratic shift that has happened is from communicable diseases to non-communicable diseases, and from how cook was food. So if you take in 1990s, all health advice will be தண்ணீரை காய்ச்சி குடிக்கவும், வடிகட்டி குடிக்கவும். How food was prepared, because infectious diseases affect the area during food handling and food preparation, whereas non-communicable diseases depend on what food we are taking. So the shift has shifted from how food is cooked to what food is cooked. And earlier we had diseases of deficiency, anemia, rickets, protein energy malnutrition, kwashiorkor, beriberi. So has anyone seen beriberi or rickets recently? Maybe very rare, but not as common as we see. Even when I was doing house surgery, we used to have PEM in the wards. Now we are having the opposite spectrum, childhood obesity. So diseases of deficiency have moved to diseases of excess. So what is this disease? Yeah, I think Keshav Pressure link is there. So Wilson's. This one. Lactose intolerance. This one? Yeah. Okay, obesity. What is obesity? This is glucose intolerance. As simple as that. So first was copper intolerance, if you can call it. Now you have got a lactose intolerance. You have got glucose intolerance or impaired glucose tolerance as the old medical terminology, or carbohydrate intolerance. Similarly, we have palm oil intolerance, we have gluten intolerance, we have amino acid intolerance, which were the phenylketonurias and other diseases we studied in your biochemistry, and then we have light intolerance, which is porphyria. So the demographic shift is from communicable diseases to non-communicable diseases, from how food is cooked to what food is cooked, from deficiency to the excess, that is the intolerances, or from allergies. So the last three we can call it as diet induced diseases, and this, why we need to be very clear is, when a disease it is induced by diet, unless you change the diet, it will not go off. When the disease is induced by diet, the treatment has to start with modification of the diet. The diet-induced disease cannot be solved totally without touching the diet. When the disease is due to inactivity, you have to do activity. So the intolerance, again this intolerance is a wrong word. Now this can be either a primary or secondary. For example, obese, a person with some genetic abnormality in insulin receptors can develop obesity, and this obesity can induce to type 2 diabetes, that is secondary. Then the pathology can be transient or permanent, and the effects can be mild, moderate or severe. So all these complications or combinations, permutations are available, you have to be ready. And this you know how diet causes diseases is either by deficiency, B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, everything. Deficiency in absorption, which is malabsorption syndromes. Relative deficiency, which is a folate trap. And all the enzymes triggers immunity. So when we need to address diet scientifically, remember that diet can cause disease by various mechanisms. Either that the diet is not in the food, or the diet is in the food but there is some problem in the intestine which prevents it to be absorbed, or it is absorbed but there is some problem in the metabolism which prevents it to be used, or either you are giving too much that the enzymes are not able to cope up, or there is an immunity. So 20th century we had only the top 3 problems, 21st century we are having all the problems. So the another point is, because there is an increased caloric intake due to increased availability, and we have got newer foods, newer sauces and newer ingredients, many allergy are triggered by the newer sauces we add and the ingredients in those sauces, and there is an increased processing, and there is also less common, and the last point in the new challenges is less common diseases in the past have become more common. So what do you see here? Now, where have the stars gone? Sun has gone. Exactly. So what happens is, So what happens is, diseases of deficiency will be more during malnutrition and famine. The genes for the diseases of excess will be present there, but just like a sun eclipsing the stars, this malnutrition and famine will prevent the genes of other problems from expressing itself. But when there is a well-fed state, all these diseases of excess will come. So till 30-40 years ago, when we had malnutrition, when our calorie intake was less, when our people were not getting enough food, all these genes were present but they didn't express as disease. Today we are seeing them. So diseases of low immunity are more during communicable era. Diseases of more immunity are more during communicable era diseases, and then the non-communicable. Then take the common cause of diarrhea. Now 30 years ago, 99% of diarrhea was only infective. Today we are also got a non-infective diarrheas and you have to deal with that. So, where do a clinician goes wrong when coming to diet is very simple. When we ignore the non-communicable disease part, that is diarrhea need not be only infective diarrhea. It can be a non-infective diarrhea. Sinusitis need not be only an infective sinusitis. It can be a non-infective sinusitis. And when we don't understand the exposure effect, that is, one person in some allergen which is causing disease in one person, it can cause a transient disease. Another person, it can cause a long-standing disease. Some person, it can be mild. Some person, it can be moderate. Some person, it can be severe. So, across specialties, this is important. Not all sinusitis is due to infections. Not all uveitis is due to infections. At least, and not all arthritis is due to rheumatic or infective. And even in neuro, when many of the neuritis, encephalitis, the more and more cases we see are getting solved with diet. So, take home message is, any non-infective itis developing suddenly. Patient was well for 25 years. Suddenly they got joint pain. They went and they found out that he is fitting into some polymyositis syndrome or some uveitis. Suddenly some encephalitis, something. If the patient is so long very healthy, did not express it at childhood, but suddenly got any itis, ask for recent change in diet, you will get the answer. At least I have got it in 90% of cases. There is one diet component which they have recently added to their diet, which has caused the problem. And in 90% of the patients where that new component has caused the problem starts in 6 weeks maximum after you remove it. So the most common problem is, I will tell you later. So how to proceed? Rethink the exposure in general and diet in particular. Think about problems of deficiency and excess, and remember that what is normal for one person can be excess for another person based on his genetics and concurrent illness. So can you identify this enzyme and drugs? Only pharmacologists can do, I will tell you. This is isoniazid and this is the acetylating enzymes. Why it is important is, when you give isoniazid for tuberculosis, many people the enzyme is okay, that is optimal, they have less side effect. Some people the enzyme is very hyperactive and they land up with hepatotoxicity. Some people the enzyme is less active and they land up with peripheral neuritis. So this is a very classical example which is already in textbooks for 3 or 4 decades. My point is, like this enzyme, every enzyme in your body varies from individual to individual. Some enzymes are slightly less active in individuals, some are slightly more active in individuals, and this non-specific inflammation is mostly because of the increased action or reduced action of the enzymes. So this we all know. How to differentiate between a drug or poison? The classic description is, both are same, the dose alone differs. So any poison, when you reduce the dose, it becomes the drug, including botulinum toxin, which you are now using for certain conditions. Any drug, you increase the dose, it becomes a poison. So how a drug or poison, what differentiate between a drug or a poison is first the nature of the substance, genetic makeup of the individual, and the situation. What is drug today can become a poison tomorrow if the individual has some other concurrent inflammation. The same thing, the same logic is for your diet also. What diet is tolerated by one person will not be tolerated by the other person. The lactose which is tolerated by many people is not tolerated by people with lactose intolerance. Carbohydrate which is tolerated by many people will not be tolerated by people with carb intolerance. And genetic makeup of the individuals, copper which is tolerated in normal quantity by people is not tolerated by those with Wilson's disease. And situation, for example, someone has a stress. Today he is taking 5 idlis, his postprandial will be only 130. If he is facing an exam or an interview or some stress, the same 5 idlis may increase his postprandial to 200. So coming to carbohydrate in diet, the correct amount or percentage varies from person to person, and even in the same person based on his body weight, and even in the same body weight based on his stress levels. So the same amount percentage of carbohydrate can cause weight loss in one person, can maintain the weight in another person, and can cause weight gain in the third person. So, with this, the secondary problems of carb intolerance like obesity, because more insulin is used by adipose tissues, type 2 DM because insulin is not available for muscles, or low testosterone secondary to obesity because of the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, and PCOS. So, coming to the diet-based approach, it is very, very simple. The key in a diet-based approach is to identify whether this disease can be cured by diet. If you ask that question, the answer is very, very simple. The answer to following a diet-based approach is not at all difficult. Because if there is a deficiency, give it. If there is an excess, reduce it. That's all. So, how to carry out a diet-based treatment is very simple. The challenge lies in understanding that this is a diet-induced disease. Once you understand that this is a diet-induced disease, and then you ask the question which component of the diet is causing it, solution is very, very simple. Allergen which is causing disease in one person, it can cause a transient disease. Another person, it can cause a long-standing disease. Some person, it can be mild. Some person, it can be moderate. Some person, it can be severe. So, across specialties, this is important. Not all sinusitis is due to infections. Not all uveitis is due to infections. At least, and not all arthritis is due to rheumatic or infective. And even in neuro, when many of the neuritis, encephalitis, the more and more cases we see are getting solved with diet. So, take home message is, any non-infective itis developing suddenly. Patient was well for 25 years. Suddenly they got joint pain. They went and they found out that he is fitting into some polymyositis syndrome or some uveitis. Suddenly some encephalitis, something. If the patient is so long very healthy, did not express it at childhood, but suddenly got any itis, ask for recent change in diet, you will get the answer. At least I have got it in 90% of cases. There is one diet component which they have recently added to their diet, which has caused the problem. And in 90% of the patients where that new component has caused the problem starts in 6 weeks maximum after you remove it. So the most common problem is, I will tell you later. So how to proceed? Rethink the exposure in general and diet in particular. Think about problems of deficiency and excess, and remember that what is normal for one person can be excess for another person based on his genetics and concurrent illness. So can you identify this enzyme and drugs? Only pharmacologists can do, I will tell you. This is isoniazid and this is the acetylating enzymes. Why it is important is, when you give isoniazid for tuberculosis, many people the enzyme is okay, that is optimal, they have less side effect. Some people, the enzyme is very hyperactive and they land up with hepatotoxicity. Some people, the enzyme is less active and they land up with peripheral neuritis. So this is a very classical example which is already in textbooks for 3 or 4 decades. My point is, like this enzyme, every enzyme in your body varies from individual to individual. Some enzymes are slightly less active in individuals, some are slightly more active in individuals, and this non-specific inflammation is mostly because of the increased action or reduced action of the enzymes. So, this we all know. How to differentiate between a drug or poison? The classic description is, both are same, the dose alone differs. So, any poison, when you reduce the dose, it becomes the drug, including botulinum toxin, which you are now using for certain conditions. Any drug, you increase the dose, it becomes a poison. So, how a drug or poison, what differentiate between a drug or a poison is first the nature of the substance, genetic makeup of the individual, and the situation. What is drug today can become a poison tomorrow if the individual has some other concurrent inflammation. The same thing, the same logic is for your diet also. What diet is tolerated by one person will not be tolerated by the other person. the lactose which is tolerated by many people is not tolerated by people with lactose intolerance. Carbohydrate which is tolerated by many people will not be tolerated by people with carb intolerance. And genetic makeup of the individuals, copper which is tolerated in normal quantity by people is not tolerated by those with Wilson's disease. And situation, for example, someone has a stress. Today he is taking 5 idlis, his postprandial will be only 130. If he is facing an exam or an interview or some stress, the same 5 idlis may increase his postprandial to 200. So, coming to carbohydrate in diet, the correct amount or percentage varies from person to person, and even in the same person based on his body weight, and even in the same body weight based on his stress levels. So, the same amount percentage of carbohydrate can cause weight loss in one person, can maintain the weight in another person, and can cause weight gain in the third person. So, with this, the secondary problems of carb intolerance like obesity, because more insulin is used by adipose tissues, type 2 DM because insulin is not available for muscles, or low testosterone secondary to obesity because of the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, and PCOS. So, coming to the diet based approach, it is very, very simple. The key in a diet based approach is to identify whether this disease can be cured by diet. If you ask that question, the answer is very, very simple. The answer to following a diet based approach is not at all difficult. Because if there is a deficiency, give it. If there is a excess, reduce it. That's all. So, how to carry out a diet based treatment is very simple. The challenge lies in understanding that this is a diet induced disease. Once you understand that this is a diet induced disease, and then you ask the question which component of the diet is causing it, solution is very, very simple. If you cannot avoid, reduce. So, the concept of balanced diet does not exist because the balance varies from person to person. There is no balanced diet for everyone. What is balanced diet for me will be different from what is balanced diet for you, which is different from what is balanced diet for him. And even in me, what is the balanced diet when I am in 80 kg is different from what is the balanced diet when I am 100 kg. And even if I am 100 kg, what is the balanced diet today will be when I am relaxed will be different from what is the balanced diet tomorrow when I am to do aneurysm surgery. So, if you see the components of the food, we can divide it into what is absorbed and what is not absorbed, which is either not absorbed is fiber, we know. Then what is absorbed, what is used for energy, not used for energy. The point is, the balanced diet varies from person to person, and it is not one thing common. So, most balances come with the manufacturing defect. You have to calibrate it for the individual. So, how does diet cure diseases? First point, diet will not cure all disease. It will cure only disease which are caused by diet. Remember this. And the second corollary is, for most problems in Tamil Nadu in 2024, there is a diet induced component. So, this is another thing is, many of the allergies today happen because the allergens are in the seeds. So, if you take the structure of a seed, the seed will have a seed coat, and above it you have the endocarp, pericarp, mesocarp. So, evolution wise, why the seed has a pericarp is, the early seeds did not have pericarp. The early seeds just had the seed coat.
Sir, 5 more minutes, sir. Thank you. 5 more minutes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, the earlier seeds just had the seed coat. Only when the plants wanted the animals to eat it and then to propagate it to a far off distance, they developed pericarp. The point is, the seed coat induces allergy in most people, and because if you are taking a seed has a hole, and if you are genetically susceptible, you will develop some inflammation. Remember this. This is a natural defense mechanism of the plant kingdom. They don't want you to eat the seed. So, what happens is, an animal, say for example, there is one wheat plant which does not cause allergy to the cow. There is another wheat plant which causes allergy to the cow. So, the cows will learn to eat only the plants which does not cause allergy. So in due course, the all the plants which does not cause allergy will be eliminated. Only the plants which cause allergy will grow. Same way, today any plant, anything, if the plant has survived so much years, millions of years of evolution from animals, it means it is liable to cause energy. But how much allergy it causes varies from person to person. So the point here is, why we had even though we were eating carbs predominantly for the last century, why we had less allergic disorders is because most of our carb was from rice, which is dehusked. We have removed the husk, that is umi, which causes allergy. And even if you take ulundu, that is urad dal, many people used to remove the skin. Thol edutha ulundu dhaan they use for idli. So even though we were eating rice and ulundu for so long, because we removed the seeds and were eating them, the allergies were less. But unfortunately, after the onset of millet, especially after millets were promoted by media and social media, we are seeing lots and lots of autoimmune disorders. This is just one example. Now if you see, lots and lots of studies have come because due to allergic potential of millets. So presentation overview, we have covered all the four. Now just coming to the validating the solutions part, which I will complete in 5 minutes. So when you want to approach scientifically, remember 2 things. There is something called as level of evidence and there is something called as class of recommendation. Both are different. So level of evidence, the lowest level is personal observation, highest level is RCT, randomized control trial. Whereas class of evidence, it is either recommended or indicated. What you need to know is, any class of recommendation can be with any level of evidence. You don't need randomized control trial for everything. You don't even need a trial for everything. To explain this, to substantiate it, I am quoting 2 studies from British Medical Journal. The first study, they said that they want to determine whether parachutes are effective or not. So what they did is, they did a systemic review of RCT. And then they concluded that the effectiveness of parachutes has not been subjected to rigorous evaluation by using RCT. So if you see this, if you see these words, what you will think is that parachutes are inefficient. So remember these words. The second study is even more fine. They again found out that whether parachute prevents death. Again they gave a result that parachute use did not significantly reduce death or major injury. Okay. The only thing is they were jumped from a plane which was in the ground. Which this word was hidden in the study. So be careful of all these randomized control studies. Because the study 1 concluded that effectiveness of parachutes has not been subjected to rigorous evaluation. Study 2 concluded that it did not reduce death or major traumatic injury. Whenever you see a study about diet, just check whether they are using such words. So you need randomized control trial only if the non-randomized control trial does not give you a result. That is, you are comparing 2 drugs where an NRCT says both are equal, then only you go for RCT. And you need a randomized trial only if the cohort does not give you result. You need a cohort only if the case controls does not give you result. And you need the case control only if observations do not give results. So only when you are not able to look at choose which is better between 2 by mere observational studies, you go for a case control. Only if both are equal in case control, you go for cohort. It is not needed to go for RCT everywhere because we have lots and lots of class 1 recommendation based on level 5 evidence. There was no RCT done for parachutes. There was no RCT done for seat belt. There was no RCT done for helmets. There was no RCT done for throttle guards. All these are class 1 recommendations, but evidence is only observation. So to validate your approach, look at the strength of recommendation and not at the quality of evidence. Okay. And all these are parachute, seat belts, everything. We have been just implementing them based on observations. No one has done a RCT to decide whether parachute is needed or not.
Sir, time, sir. Thank you, sir.
So where do we go wrong is, we don't read journals but follow media reports. So when media said that eating fat will make you fat, our doctors community blindly followed it. We never checked whether that is true as per our biochemistry book. Then we wait for an RCT when the answer is already available, or we are deceived by a study with flawed methodology. So what happens to reducing carb in diet will reduce fat synthesis. This is very, very simple. Reduce carb in diets, blood glucose comes down, insulin comes down, fat synthesis comes down. All these 4 steps are validated for 80-90 years in textbooks. Why you need a level 5 evidence exists for each of the above 4. But we are waiting for one journal article to sum it up, which is not at all needed. Same thing, because you will see that effectiveness of parachutes has not been subjected to rigorous evaluation. Same thing, parachutes did not reduce death or major traumatic journal. The same words when someone says for diet that there is no RCT for low carb diet, people are shocked. No need to get shocked. Just like there is no RCT for parachute, there won't be an RCT for low carb diet. You just use the common sense. Yeah. Okay. And same thing, you reduce antigen in the diet, there will be a reduced WBC activation. This is well known. When there is reduced WBC activation, there will be reduced immune process. This is also well known. When there is reduced immune process, there is reduced disease severity. This is also well known. All these are level 5 evidence. But you want to know one journal article to say that reduced antigen in diet will come to reduce disease severity. Not at all needed. Again, you see there is no need. Just like how if you are confident about individual disease process, you can go with your intervention. So take home messages 1, 2, 3. As clinicians in Tamil Nadu, we have new problems. You will have to point to, you will have to face media trial and social media trial in 21st century in addition to legal trial. New problems need new solutions, but based on good old time-tested principles which can defend you against any trial. There is no common balanced diet that suits all. The so-called balance, that is the metabolism, comes with the manufacturing defect, so you have to calibrate it. Look at individual balance and load the weights according to the manufacturing defect. Most patients have an NCD component even in a communicable diseases. Most NCD conditions originate from diet. Diet includes both food and snacks. Calories are not the only problem. Modifying diet is the best and cheapest and simplest treatment. Don't wait for RCT when answer is already available. Don't wait to be deceived by a study with flawed methodology. To validate your approach, look at the strength of the recommendation, not at the level of evidence. Class 1 recommendation for use of parachute, seat belts, helmets was not based on RCT, but only based on observation and common sense. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bruno. Our problem is, come sit here. Our problem is the time. Come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for insightful presentation on diet.
தேங்க்யூ மிஸ்டர். ஒரே ஒன்று மட்டும் சொல்கிறேன். தமிழில் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கிறாங்க, சார் சொன்னது எல்லாமே கீதையிலே சொல்லியிருக்குது. ஃபுட் தட் கேன் இண்டிவிஜுவல் ஈட் டைரக்ட்லி இன்ஃப்ளூயன்சஸ் தாட், கேரக்டர், மென்டல் வெல்பீயிங் அண்ட் ஹெல்த். ஸோ பேசிக்கே ஹெல்த்து தான். அது சின்ன சேயிங் தமிழில் ஒன்று, உண்ணும் உணவே உணர்வுக்கு ஆதாரம், உணர்வுகள் தான் எண்ணத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், எண்ணங்கள் தான் சொற்களுக்கு ஆதாரம், சொற்கள் தான் பழக்கத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், பழக்கம்தான் வழக்கத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், வழக்கம்தான் நடத்தைக்கு ஆதாரம், நடத்தை தான் வாழ்வுக்கு ஆதாரம். தேங்க்யூ.
And social media trial in 21st century in addition to legal trial. New problems need new solutions, but based on good old time-tested principles which can defend you against any trial. There is no common balanced diet that suits all. The so-called balance, that is the metabolism, comes with the manufacturing defect, so you have to calibrate it. Look at individual balance and load the weights according to the manufacturing defect. Most patients have an NCD component even in a communicable diseases. Most NCD conditions originate from diet. Diet includes both food and snacks. Calories are not the only problem. Modifying diet is the best and cheapest and simplest treatment. Don't wait for RCT when answer is already available. Don't wait to be deceived by a study with flawed methodology. To validate your approach, look at the strength of the recommendation, not at the level of evidence. Class 1 recommendation for use of parachute, seat belts, helmets was not based on RCT, but only based on observation and common sense. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bruno. Our problem is, come sit here. Our problem is the time. Come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for insightful presentation on diet.
தேங்க்யூ வெரி மச் சார். ஒரே ஒன்று மட்டும் சொல்கிறேன். தமிழில் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கிறாங்க, சார் சொன்னது எல்லாமே கீதையிலே சொல்லியிருக்குது. ஃபுட் தட் கேன் இண்டிவிஜுவல் ஈட் டைரக்ட்லி இன்ஃப்ளூயன்சஸ் தாட், கேரக்டர், மென்டல் வெல்பீயிங் அண்ட் ஹெல்த். ஸோ பேசிக்கே ஹெல்த்து தான். அது சின்ன சேயிங் தமிழில் ஒன்று, உண்ணும் உணவே உணர்வுக்கு ஆதாரம், உணர்வுகள் தான் எண்ணத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், எண்ணங்கள் தான் சொற்களுக்கு ஆதாரம், சொற்கள் தான் பழக்கத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், பழக்கம்தான் வழக்கத்துக்கு ஆதாரம், வழக்கம்தான் நடத்தைக்கு ஆதாரம், நடத்தை தான் வாழ்வுக்கு ஆதாரம். தேங்க்யூ.
I request Dr. Abdulhassan sir to honor the speaker, Dr. Bruno. I request her to honor. I request our president to honor Dr. Doraikannan.